Learning Hills Melochim, Perek Vov, Halacha Vov, in the Rambam. Amon Moyev ein Shechel Em L'Sholem. Amon Moyev, you can now send them to make peace. She'enem al Yisidro Shloimim Teivosam Kol Yamecho. So you should not seek out their peace or their goodness all your days. So let's see what the Peirush says here. This pasuk is found in Devarim 23:7. Verse 7, and before that it says in verse 4 that the Ammonim can never become the males of their, as we'll see, they can never become converts. And then in the Torah Tamadov, and the pasuk tells you why in verse 5. Because they did not greet you with bread and water. The Chacham said, it says, because you should call out to it for peace. I might think that the Amon and Moav you can also call out to peace, meaning you can go to war with them as well. You shall not seek out their peace or their goodness. Because it says in Devarim 20 verse 10, because they're showing. So it says also in 23, 16 and 17, do not return a slave to its master, who should flee to you from his master. He shall remain with you in a place where Hashem will choose in one of your gates. For his goodness, do not torment him. So you have to make him feel good. I might think that this applies to Amon and Moav as well, that you can take them and give them goodness. It says not only Shloimam, but Teivosam, that they are not among the people who you can be good with. Rashi explains in Devarim 23:7, you should not seek out their peace, because when it says that he shall be with you, I would think this would apply to Amon and Moav as well. Therefore it says no, you should not seek out their peace. In the beginning of Hilchos Melochim, the Rambam says that this is the 13th mitzvah, that you cannot seek peace with Amon and Moav when you wage war against them, and there it doesn't mention their goodness. And he writes also in Sefer HaMitzvahs in the negative prohibitions 656 that we cannot make peace with Amon and Moav forever. That's what our God commanded us. When we come to wage on a city, that we have to ask for peace before the war. We should ask, they should make peace, and if they give the city over, you cannot wage war with them and kill them, as we find in the positive commandment 190, except for Amon and Moav. The HaKadosh told us that you cannot call to them to peace. That's why it says in Devarim 23:7, you should not ask their peace and goodness. And the Sifri says, when you come to a city to wage war on it, you'll come ask for peace. I may think by Amon and Moav as well. And he says, furthermore, it's written in the negative commandment 2:55, we are forbidden, we are warned from returning a slave who fled from his master, because it says, do not return a slave to his master, he shall be with you. When he betrayed loy in a good state, do not torment him. And the Sifri writes, this is, do not trick him with words, and we should act with him in a good fashion. And here the Sifri says, by Amon and Moav, In Peirush HaMeir, it says L'siddur Shloimon, that you cannot do this to a slave from Ammon and Moav. The Rambam cites from Rashi. L'siddur Shloimon is B'toiv loy loy teinenu. It says you should not seek out their peace, and it's not included in the goodness that you have to do to an Eved. And Sifrin disagrees. V'toivosom is what took out, is where we find that you should not seek out do good with the slave, and not from v'toiv loy loy teinenu, but sidroi shloimim v'toivosom. The chinuch in mitzvah 562 says, like, accords with the Rambam, it's forbidden to make peace with Ammon and Moav forever. And we're commanded, when we go out to wage war, we have to make peace. And we can't do it with Ammon and Moav, because you can't seek out their peace forever. And so the Sifri says, I might think this is the case here too. So it says, we should not seek out their peace. The Melochim Chinuch points out that the Chinuch did not learn from the Toivosom, because it says he also learns it from he should be good with you. The Chinuch counter that you cannot trick even with words a slave who's fled from his master out of Eretz Yisrael to Eretz Yisrael. That this is referring to a Jewish slave, meaning a slave of a Jew who fled outside of Eretz Yisrael. We should not embarrass him, we should not belittle him, certainly not indeed do anything, as we find in Hilchos Yesodei in chapter 8, Halacha 11. A slave who fled to Eretz Yisrael has a din of a ger tzedek if he left Chutz La'aretz. And the Pasuk adds a warning that somebody who does hurt him with words, that he is considered very a lowly person, and he feels more humble even than a regular convert. We said, he shall dwell amongst you, to not torment him, even words. And here the Rambam adds that this does not refer to Ammon and Moav. The Ramban is smag, mean Moetzes. Let's say when it says when there's a few specific items in one prohibition, it's count each one is a separate prohibition. The Chinuch questions why the Rambam and the smag don't count as two forbiddennesses. One, not asking peace. Second one, if they come to you as a freed slave, do not do goodness with them, because each one has a separate aspect. The Brisker Rov and the Griz argues that Toivosom, the goodness, is not included at the time of war. It has nothing to do with peace, but it has to do, he should be with you if he flees, but if as a slave. Therefore, Ammon and Moav are not included in that, even after they become converted. The Griz questions why the Rambam takes both Asoris as one when they have no connection to each other. Furthermore, he questions why did he mention them in Hilchos Melochim by Milchama when the Toivosom is only during war, and the Toivosom does not have to do with war. And he also said the Toivosom, he brings it sort of as an addition, and he doesn't say it as a separate injunction. And furthermore, on both of them, the Rambam concludes that if they did come to peace without you mentioning it, we do accept them. The question is that the intent of the Pasuk is that's after they converted, not at the time of war. So the Griz therefore comes up with a novel idea that V'toivosom, it refers to the time of war, regarding you should call out to them for good peace, because from Imcho Yeshev we know that they can be a ger toshav. And he cites Hilchos Yesodei that we don't give a place for anyone to dwell in Yisrael in Jerusalem, even a ger toshav, like in the Sifri, where it says B'sharecha, in your gates, not in Yerushalayim. You can't give even a non-Jew who has accepted the 7 mitzvahs the right to live in Yerushalayim, even though he can live in the other cities of Israel. Thus, ger toshav is included in Imcha Yeshev B'toiv Loi. So from this law that we know that Imcha Yeshev is referring to ger toshav, and he can't be in Yerushalayim, only in other Bishorecho, in other cities. Therefore, we can conclude that they themselves can become a ger toshav, but they cannot become. You cannot call out to them to become subjects as we would usually do. They either have to accept the 7 mitzvahs or not. The Rae Gann Family cites a Sifri that says Imcha Yeshev and not in your cities. The Rambam also is the opinion like the Sifri that is talking about a ger toshav, and that's what Imcha Yeshev means, b'toiv loch. The Grizz says that since we don't Perek Vav Halacha Aleph, we call out the peace, he has to make peace and be taxed in servitude and keep the 7 mitzvahs. So you have this, also the idea of the 7 mitzvahs. Moev, it says that you don't ask them to make peace, to accept the 7 mitzvahs. Therefore, they can't be a ger toshav to be included in the B'toiv Loi, which is mentioned by ger toshav. Therefore, the Rambam put them together. First, he mentions at a time of war, you don't send to them for peace. And then he explains that 2 things. Do not make peace with them to ask them to have the 7 mitzvahs to be a ger toshav. That's but in both instances, the Rambam concludes even though you don't call out the peace, if they themselves decided to make peace, you don't wage war with them, and they have to get in a ger toshav, and we are only commanded that we should not do so from our part. But if they did so on their part, they're like any of the other nations. Therefore, they are part of one mitzvah, which is how to deal with them if whether we accept them as ger toshav or not. We do, but we cannot call out to them. They have to do it on their own. With this basis, this understanding, we can answer the question of the Mechas Chinuch on the Ramban and the Smag, that even though by Korban Pesach it says you should not eat from it uncooked or raw or cooked, because it says they're stated in 1 lav, therefore they're counted like 2 lavim. So we see sometimes when there are 2 particulars, they're separate because there are 2 parts to it. Do not eat it raw, do not eat it cooked. And also the same thing when it comes to an Esen Zoino, what one gives to a prostitute, there's 2 parts to it. You're not permitted to bring that which is paid to a prostitute to the Beis HaMikdash as a korban, or that which was sold for in exchange a sheep for a dog. You bring the sheep to the Beis HaMikdash, and you're counted as 2. But here, Shleimim V'Teivosam, there's 1 basis. That by Aman and Moav, there's no din of the 7 mitzvahs, and therefore the Rambam mentioned it as 1 mitzvah, because the basis of it is that you can't call out to them to become a ben noach correctly. And the Grizz points out to the at the end of the Supreme, that it writes an explanation in the name of the Ravid. Even though that you don't ask for the peace, if they make peace on their own, we do accept them. if they came to accept the 7 mitzvahs, they're like a ger toisha. We don't say lo yisidu shloimim v'teivosu. The Minchas Chinuch points out that Biurim, that's at the end of the Sifrim, didn't bring a source for this. It would seem that it's that Tana's own interpretation. The Kiyah Sefer says that the intent of the Rambam is simple. The Torah forbade only for us to go out and ask for their peace. Therefore, if they came on their own, we do accept them. Because Maimonides cites from the Shiurim. When is this so? When we call out the peace. Maimonides did do charity with Klal Yisrael, you would be able to call out the peace, because we find in Shmuel Beis in chapter 10, verse 1 and 2, that the king of Ammon died, and Chonon became his son became king. And David said, I'll do chesed with Chonon as he did with his father, like his father did with me. And David sent to console him. He went to console Chonon because Chonon's father did charity with him, even though you can't ask for their peace. And so the Smag says, in his name, that you can seek them out for peace. But the Gezer Mishnah questions, how could Agos Maimonides say in the name of the aim? That would be mutter for David to ask them for peace, like in a medrash, where it says, David, and you will go against my words. I write, do not seek them out, and you will go and make with them charity. It would seem that David did transgress when this prohibition. Hilchos explains that you can go out to peace only the person himself. When David he went ahead and did peace with his son, and that was a forbiddenness. Minchas Chinuch cites that there goes Maimonides, his statement, and the medrash that the Gezer Mishnah brings down, that it's forbidden to seek out their peace and their goodness, is even now during war. And why? He questions why the Chinuch says that you only do it, and it only applies to males who can wage war when Yisrael were in Eretz Yisrael. That they waged war with Ammon and Moav. That is, there was this forbiddenness only at the time of war to call out the peace. And according to the Griz, this forbiddenness is only at the time of war. The Minchas Chinuch also is the opinion, according to the Medrash and Agoras Maimonides, is also the opinion that according to the Medrash and Agoras Maimonides, it's forbidden to do any charity with them, such as consolation, visiting the sick, bringing them as guests, and whoever does charity with them transgresses of the situation. He questions if is this after they become Gerim as well, because there it says in Devarim 23, verse 4-5, that Ammoni and Moavi cannot become part of Klal Yisrael because they did not give you bread and water. And there, if they became converted, it remains that they can't marry. Maybe therefore it's forbidden to seek out goodness for them as well. And he argues that women who become converted are permitted to get married, because the Gemara learns from Devarim 23 verse 4, Ammoni, which is in the masculine, not a feminine, and only a zocher who converted is forbidden to marry. Maybe from this we learn that it's only on males that converted, not on their wives, that they didn't do this terrible thing that the Torah forbade them, as the Chinuch says. And maybe, just like women are permitted to come into Klal Yisrael according to Chinuch, therefore they're permitted to do with them chesed, as we find Boaz did so. And he's of the opinion, Chazal accepted this derivation of males and not females, Ammonim, and therefore she's permitted to come into the Klal Yisrael to marry, but they didn't go and learn that while they are still Harmonium, it only applies to males, because the Torah doesn't say that it only applies to males. And who can know the reasons for a mitzvah? Therefore, females are included in this forbiddenness even as long as they're not converted. Yereim says as well that by females there will be this forbiddenness. Perla questions the possibly Sidrosh doesn't mention Ammon and Moav. This is learned from the Posuk Yovi Ammon and Moavi. Therefore, it would seem by Sidrosh is only for males, because if one is a conclusion from the other, it can only be concluded for the males. But the Melochim Chinuch points out that the forbiddenness of the prohibition is even by after they became converted, and when it comes to minimize that by Ger Tzedek, as we said before, cannot be Yerushalayim, and even after they're converted, and he wants to say that this would apply even after conversion for males and females. But the Griz is of the opinion that it's only referring to the time of war, only they didn't accept by themselves the 7 mitzvahs, but once they've accepted it, then there's no forbiddenness to seek them out and do goodness with them. The Rebbe and the Chinuch are of the opinion that since Nechev came and mixed up all the nations of the world, there's no forbiddenness anymore of Ammoni and Moavi, as we learned in Hilchos Yesodei 12th chapter, Halacha 25. There's no forbiddenness of seeking out their goodness by any goy, because there are no longer Ammon and Moav found even in the places where Ammon and Moav once lived. The Rambam, according with his opinion, mitzvahs establishes that you don't count a mitzvah that isn't for all generations, and the Bahag didn't count Al Totas Moav Al Tizgeba Mochoma, nor the warning about not troubling them nor because they're not forever. After Sanchev came, then he didn't bring them. The Rambam counts Al Totas Moav Al Tizgeba Mochoma that this does apply, even though it would seem today, after they were mixed up, there's 2 lavim, 2 prohibitions, not to trouble them and not to wage war, and this is forever. And he explains this in Torah, and he explains Al Tizgabom is talking about Ammon and Moav. It's not a mitzvah it's a mitzvah forever. Keep them in Eloit, because I gave till Mashiach comes, I gave Ammon and Moav to the descendants of Lot. The Ramban questions, since you can't wage war with them, why does it says do not seek out their peace and their goodness, right? And he answers that you can wage war with them if they capture a city from other nations. Then you can't ask for peace. Or if they'll come to wage war with you, we can chase after them and grab cities from them because they did evil to us. Like we find in Shreiftim, when Yiftach went to fight with Bnei Ammon, then it says, Vayakim, he smote them from Aroer till you come to Menis Esem. And also we find that David waged war with all the cities of Ammon, because they broke the barrier first and fought with us. And you can wage war with them, even in their nations. So that's why we are warned that when you wage war, you're not obligated to do this, calling out to them for peace. However, the Rambam opinion is that you can wage war with Ammon and Moav. The forbiddenness is only at the time of Moshe Rabbeinu and not forever. And for forbiddenness of do not seek out their peace is even when we go out to wage war, even if they didn't come to wage war against us. The Ramban cites a Medrash, but it says by Elisha, and you shall destroy every fortified city and every city from good tree, you shall have it fall down, and every piece of well of water shall you seal. So the Pasuk says you should not destroy the trees. So he says that's only by other nations. It doesn't say it by Moav, because it says Mosdos Moav b'yedchem, and Moav is a lowly and nation that we don't have to seek out their goodness. These are even their good trees. Ramban explains this is to cause them torment, but because Baruch gave them a land, they should remain there. The Ramban is also of the opinion that waging war with Ammon and Moav, when they came to fight with us, it's permitted to destroy their trees, even though by other wars we're not allowed to do that. You don't cut off the trees, because it says do not destroy the tree. Perik Vav, Halacha will continue about Derech HaPshat, according to the understanding of that you should not seek out their peace or their goodness, even though they are from the family of Avram, that loved their father Lot as a brother. Do not seek them out as a brother, because they broke the covenant, because they didn't give you bread and water. But Hashem still kept for the descendants of Lot the right of their father, who did escort Avram to the Hashem, that we Hashem sent them from Ur-Kasdim to Canaan, and he gave them from the portion of Avram, as it says in the Devarim 2 verse 19, that the Bnei Lot have I given as an inheritance. And even though the HaKadosh Baruch Hu said by Bris Bein Absalom to give to Avram Avinu 10 lands, that these included the land of the Kini, the Knizi, and the Kadmoni. They were not given to the seed of Avram, these 3 lands, but they were given to Ammon and Moav, who have the seed of Lot, and Kadmoni is where Edom is. That was given to the children of Esav, and only when Mashiach will come, they will be designated as part of Avram's inheritance. In the Sefer Mitzvahs of the Rambam, he counts the fact that you should not wage war with the Ammon and Moav as a separate prohibition. He adds, do not torment them, but we find by Bnei Ammon, and also the other one of do not besiege them, take from them anything which is mentioned by Bnei Seir as allowed, but the Rambam and the Bag do not count them. The Ramban cites that the Rambam writes that they are a mitzvah for only one generation and not forever. He questions why didn't he count it according to the Rambam, even though there are mitzvahs that were only for a time, and so he asks on the Bahag. We see that the mitzvahs do continue forever, because it says in Devarim 2 verse 9, do not trouble Moav, besiege Moav, and do not go against them with war, because I will not give you from their land an inheritance, because I gave it to the children of Lot, and I will not give you, which is mentioned by the children of Seir, is forever, because it says in Devarim 2 verse 5, because I have given it to Esav HaSeir, and it's not called an inheritance, and it's something that was given for generations, otherwise just for that period of time. And we find by Eretz Yisrael as well, it's called an inheritance forever, as Yisrael did to the land of their inheritance. The Rambam himself, in his third rule regarding how you count mitzvahs, points out that the language inheritance that we find in the minimum mitzvahs are only those that are forever, as it says in Devarim 33, verse 4. Moshe Rabbeinu taught us Torah as an inheritance to the congregations of Yaakov, that 613 mitzvahs are forever. As the Chacham is saying, Basar 129b, that inheritance has no end to it. Therefore, the Rambam admits that Yerusha is forever. The Ramban asks, see, this is the Torah, it says that these three lands were given to the children of Lot and to Esav. Certainly it should be counted among the mitzvahs because it's a mitzvah forever. And further proof from a Medrash and Bereshis Rabbah in Tanchum and Dvorim that when David sent Yoav to Aram Naharayim and Aram Tzoiva, he met Edomim. He wanted to kill them. So they said to him, it says, you should go around the mountain. And he found the Moabim. He wanted to kill them. They said to him, it says, do not wage war against Moab. So Yoav sent to David HaMelech, what should he do? At that moment, David did not act as a king, but he took off the garments of war from him, took off his crown, put on a talus. He went to the Sanhedrin. He said to them, I didn't come to teach, to learn. They told him what happened. He asked, what should we do? They are the ones who broke through the fence first, because it says they came upon Yisrael in Shoftim 3, verse 13. They came to wage war. The Me'avim also did so, as we find by Midbar 22:5, and they sent to Bilam ben Ba'oil. And now the Ramban infers that the Sanhedrin and David didn't tell Yoav that the mitzvah is not something that doesn't affect generations. So he just said the answer that we have a right to wage wars because they were the ones who broke the boundaries first, and therefore it is a mitzvah, though, that's understood to be for generations. Any questions? It will say that for generations, how could the Sanhedrin and David agree that they lost their rights after they broke the boundaries? The Torah doesn't say when, how long, what would cause it to be nullified, and therefore, even if they're not supposed to be acting not improperly, it should be counted as those that are among the mitzvahs that are relevant to every generation. And even though he questions maybe after they broke the generations, it no longer applies, but he concludes, the Torah says for generations, because we should not do war with them, because the land was given to them. But to take portions from them and not to overcome them totally and take their land, there's no forbiddenness. They thought, these Psukim, they said to Yoav, that our land is forbidden to you, and therefore you can't fight with us either. Now, Melech said the Halacha is that you can't take their land, because it's their land. And the taking portions or parts would be permitted when they're disagreeing with us, just like robbers, because they're coming like robbers to destroy the world. Ramban adds that what the Sanhedrin derived to not wage war with them, it can't without reason cause war, because the one who begins an argument is called the initiator. And here it says, Al tizgor, you shall not do so. And Yigro, we find in Mishlei is modern. But when they come against you, you're permitted to take revenge, and their land you leave to them, because God gave it to them, as it says by Midian. Take the revenge of Israel from the Midyanim, that even though that you can't take their land, but as a revenge you can permitted to do so. The common question: why don't we say Nekoim Nikmas B'nei Yisrael? Take the revenge of the Israelites from the Me'avim, because for in fact The daughters of Moav were those that may cause the Jews to sin. Why would we say, are we told, do not wage war against Moav? And the answer is because Ruth still had to come forth from Moav. That's why they didn't go against Moav. So the revenge was from Midian for the acts of Moav, because we couldn't punish Moab because Ruth had to come from them. Any questions on the Yerushalmi and what it says in Melochim 1, chapter 2, verse 11? In the days that King David was king over Israel, was 40 years. And Chevani was 7 years. Yerushalayim was 33 years. And Shmuel Beis, chapter 5, verse 5, it says he was king 7 years and 6 months. In Yerushalayim, he was 33 years. Yerushalmi explains the differentiation of those 6 months. Since it says 6 months, Yoav did war with Moav, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will say, I said, don't do war with them, and you went to war. I did not count it among the months that you reigned. And therefore, those 6 months are not counted, even though the Sanhedrin said that he could do so, and he wasn't punished because he destroyed every male in Moav, and they were totally destroyed as if they took away their inheritance because there were no Moavim. So therefore, according to the Rambam, it's forbidden to take their inheritance and also to destroy their males. Sefer Megillas Esther answers why the Rambam is of the opinion that not to wage war against Moav is for all generations, and he pushes off the proof of the Rambam. That's correct, the Yerusha is for generations, but they did it in a very vicious way. They didn't give us bread and water when we needed it, and therefore their land and their physical being was permitted. And even though when we wage war with others, first we ask for peace, here it says, do not seek out their peace or their goodness all of your days forever. Torah was very stringent not to call peace even at the time of war. And the arguments of the Sanhedrin and David, that they had to permit them because they began the war first. They didn't say that it doesn't take effect for generations. The Megillas Esther says that going to the Rambam, they answered that even if the mitzvah would be for generations, you still have a right to do so. But in actual fact, it doesn't take effect anymore because they crossed the boundary. For it's simple and understandable, the Torah does not want to say that we cannot take revenge for those who attack us. Because the mitzvah, not to take revenge and redeem a grudge, is only said regarding the Jewish people. Now, regarding the Ramban, why the Rambam didn't count in the Sefer HaMitzvahs, since he counts other mitzvahs that are only for temporarily. Because Esther says, when they made Moshe, they were permitted, and therefore, once they were permitted, is not in the Minyan HaMitzvahs. The Sefer Megillas Esther pushes this away as well, and what we find in Yerushalmi, that David was punished for the 6 months. When he waged war against Edom, it says you shall not hate an Edomite because he is from your blood, that the forbiddenness is not to wage war against them, is in Seir and Edom, and not counted in the Minyan HaMitzvahs, because when Mashiach will come, it says, Yoshua Negev Har Seir, that the Negev will take over Har Seir. Therefore, the Rambam is of the opinion that it does not take effect for generations. Because Esther questions the Ramban, who he brings 3 negative commandments in the mitzvahs, because the Ramban also has the opinion that when Mashiach will come, it will become ours. So it's not for all time. And it's only till Mashiach comes. So you can't say it's a mitzvah that is forever.